You were saying, Dr. Sutton?
So I don't know how much poison we're getting from water because we have chemicals in the treatment of the water to get rid of things. So are we really getting a lot of the virus in it or not? And then the heat of the water should kill the virus. So I don't know how much of an issue it is, and I haven't read anything on that. I don't have a big contribution to make.
And I think that we are encouraged to look at this in the grand scheme of things, meaning that, as my mama says, there's nothing new under the sun, right? They want us to think like this is some new thing that has never, ever, ever, ever come across the earth before, so that we will freak out like chickens without heads, right? And the reality is that there are millions of viruses on the world before COVID, after COVID. That's just how life is. And God is phenomenal in the design of the human body to be able to withstand a whole lot of abuse. We create more devastation and danger to ourselves than any COVID virus can do, really and truly, if truth be told. And so, yeah, we have, quote unquote, the municipal systems that do all kinds of zapping with all kinds of chemicals and things of that nature. Plus, as Dr. Sutton says, you know, there's heat, the whole heat reality, which is that heat will kill the virus. And then the other thing, you can have filtration systems. So there are like little filters that you can screw onto your shower head if that is a concern. What I keep on telling people is that instead of being preoccupied with what's the latest Scooby-Doo version of the virus that is out there, to focus on what we are told in the Bible, which is to focus on building the health of our temple, to focus on that which is good, because there is no way that you could ever, 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 ever take into consideration all the possible threats that are out there. You just go insane if you thought about all the different things that could possibly take you out. It doesn't make sense. Just focus on building your system, building your physical temple, building your emotional temple, your spiritual temple, and your mental temple. Any other questions from our live group?
I just want to say I agree with you, Dr. Gamble. Oh, Mr. Richard, did you want to go?
I don't have to be next. I can be after.
Okay.
Go ahead and finish what you were saying, Marlena.
I was just going to say, Dr. Gamble, I agree with your statement about we just need to focus on with our own, you know, system and not be. I mean, it's a lot of fear going on, and so that's not good for your body either, to be afraid, you know, and to be walking around scared every day. Oh, I'm going to catch this. Oh, I'm going to get that. Even though I know this is really, really probably I don't know. I heard there was another virus out many, many years ago, you know, that was pretty overwhelming especially for America, that took a lot of people out and that type of thing. But I'm with Dr. Gamble on this. I think, you know, we need to just focus on taking care of our bodies and keeping our immune system strong and move on, and don't be so stressed out about what we're hearing on the news and what we're hearing our next door neighbors say and our friends and our relatives, and because it's going all over the place. But it's kind of hard to it's really kind of hard to get away from, because it's just so overwhelming and it's so everywhere, you know. But I am one of those people that feel that when my time is up, my time is up. I didn't know when I was going to be born. I really didn't know I was going to be born. And once I was born, I didn't even know I was born until I got to a certain age. Then I realized I was on the earth. You know, I didn't even know my little butt from a hole in the ground. So it is what it is, you know. And then once I realized I was on planet Earth and I was a living being, then I started trying to focus on what to do with my little self, you know. And then, of course, as time goes on, now I realize that, you know, life and death, they go hand in hand. And so, you know, babies die. Little teeny babies die before they're even born. And then they die after they're born. And then they die when they're toddlers. And then they die when they're elementary. And then they die when they're adolescent. And then they die when they're young adults, teenagers. And then they die when they're young adults. And then they die again when they're older. And us older people, you know, we die too. I'm 65. I just turned 65. And boy, was I excited. I know I look good, y'all. Don't I look good? 65 looks good on me. I'm already knowing this. So I'm excited about the life that I have right now. I'm so excited about it. And I don't know when my last day is going to be here. For, you know, I don't know how I'm leaving. I try to show love as much as possible. So hopefully I don't leave out of here in some kind of terrible, horrible kind of way. But then again, I have no idea when my last day. I'm saying all that to say I didn't know when my first day was going to be. And I don't know when my last day is going to be. I don't know how it's going to all turn out, you know, but right now, the in-between time is what I'm focusing on. I just want to try to be as happy as I can be and make my life that I have here as comfortable as possible and as less stressful as possible, and show as much love as possible and just move on if possible.
Giving you a clap. Such a good speech. We're with you, girl.
That's my story and I'm sticking to it.
Richard, what's your story, Richard? What's up?
I was just going to ask, what do we need to know about monoclonal antibodies?
All righty, I'm going to throw that over to Dr. Sutton.
The one I know of is Regeneron, and it's very effective. It's synthetic. It's used in the first 3 days, ideally, after you get COVID, but it is effective up to as many as 7 days. And it's not generally the kind of thing that a doctor writes a prescription for. You usually go to a place that does that. So it could be an urgent care or a freestanding clinic that just does those monoclonal antibodies. And they may have criteria that don't let you get it, because if you're not very sick or you're not older and at risk, they might say, sorry, you can't have it. But they're very effective when they're used.
And I encourage you
I heard of
to start doing the research from now about the locations that have it, so that if that is something that becomes necessary, you're not scrambling at the last minute. Now, in the free state of Florida, we don't have to worry about that. But for those of you who are in captive locations, well, be prepared.
I heard of somebody, some friends of mine in Arizona, that when they got COVID, they had prearranged that they could get monoclonal antibody treatment by going to emergency room because they had planned in advance. They couldn't get it in the hospital itself. And that's all I know about it, is what they said. They got better from it, and they're about my age. So I just, you know, we all hear about get ivermectin or hydroxychloroquine, but maybe this is an alternative to one of those.
Well, I think that it's not so much an alternative as it is that there are different stages where different things are effective, you know, and the monoclonal antibody has been found to be effective in extreme cases, you know, and ivermectin is more accessible, as well as can be used more preventatively and things of that nature. Dr. Sutton?
I've had some people who did both. And I think if anybody's really sick, you don't try to just do it with one thing. You just use whatever you have and watch how they improve. And then ivermectin is probably more available in Florida than in some states. And the monoclonal antibodies are supposed to be widely available, but they're not advertised or talked about very much. And I think there was even a supply problem that Biden thought Florida was making it too available and he wanted the vaccines to be pushed more or something. So the local knowledge of what's around is a good idea.
And you can always go again to my wonderful backup, which is flccc.org or whatever the version is. Google FLCCC, and they have the complete protocol, the math protocol that shows you when all of the different interventions can be utilized best, or should I say optimally, and how they're layered, because as Dr. Sutton says, it's not all or nothing. You know, you can have various ones that work together, and they are the go-to in terms of really understanding the different protocols, and they have it all typed out. All you got to do is go and print it out and take it with you to the hospital or wherever it is. So Ashley has put in there the link for FLCCC, which is COVID-19criticalcare.org. And
that's the one.
Yeah, that's the same one. Exactly. Perfect. Thank you, Ashley. So that is definitely a phenomenal resource to have. And they have not only that, but they have the preventative protocols that I think are even more important. So simple things like the iodine nasal flush, you know, that I've been sharing with all of my students, that can be done just as a matter of fact. You know, I mean, people have been using nasal flushes, historically speaking, especially in the Hindu community, for thousands of years. And now we're like, oh, wow, nasal flush. It's like, people have been doing this forever. You know, now all of a sudden we have a fancy name to put on it. So, you know, we think, oh, but just these basic things that can be done to clear out the nasal passages, clear out the throat. Also, as all of you have been saying, to clear out the fear, to do a fear dump, you know, just turn off the TV. Don't even watch TV, you know, and just do every morning and every night, do a fear dump, you know, and ask God, ask Spirit to just release you from all of that insanity, because fear takes away faith. You can't have fear and faith at the same time. It's one or the other. You're going to have to choose, right? And I don't know about you, but I'm going on faith. Now, the rest of y'all, if you want to go on fear, have at it, but that doesn't work for me. So I encourage you to consciously do a fear dump every morning and every evening and throughout the day. Just breathe in, allow that spirit to fill you and say, you know what? I'm good. I'm good. It's good. We're all good.
Can I jump in just a minute?
Go for it,
Dr.
Catherine.
Amber?
Yeah, go for it.
The thing that helps me the most, well, it helps me a lot with this, is to have my handy box. Like I do a lot of things for my immune system. I'm on a program that I'm self-directing on my program and trying to figure this out. And I have a box that's just in case. Right? So I have by my bedside the ivermectin. I have, you know, and I'm going to take Dr. Sutton's advice to find out where to go so that I'm prepared, right? So if I have all those, if I know that in my closet I have my handy box, that if this happens, I do this, and if this happens, I do this, then it helps me feel like, well, you know, I'm prepared with whatever happens. So, and focus is the other thing, but it's so good to breathe out and breathe in. You know, what am I breathing in? I'm breathing in the joy and the love and the prepared, being prepared, not putting my head in the sand. But, you know, I carry certain things in my purse all the time in case. And then sometimes the in case doesn't happen because I have that certain thing in my purse.
Awesome. Yay.
Now, Dr. Sutton, could I just go back real quick? Because I couldn't write quick enough when you were saying the general dosages. just so that I can share it with people. For the vitamin D3, you said 5,000 IU. Is that correct? 4 to 5?
That's pretty average. And if people have more detailed information, like Michelle said, from lab tests, then they could individualize. And then A, you can get from food. That would be one of the supporting reasons to use butter. Because most people don't use liver these days. The other thing is zinc, 40 to 50 milligrams a day. You can get different forms of it. The food-based zinc tends to not cause so much nausea. Some of the other zincs will cause nausea, so taking it with a meal, it's less nauseating.
You said one of them was zinc gluconate. What was the other one?
Zinc sulfate, zinc gluconate, zinc glycinate, zinc grown on turmeric or foods. I'm sorry, I just saw Richard write turmeric. I don't see turmeric as a direct COVID prevention, but it's good for anti-inflammation and it's good for your brain. So if you want to use it daily, it's big in the Hindu things, I think, with golden milk and all the different kinds of chai that probably has turmeric in it. Is that everything, Ashley?
As far as the zinc, which one, is there one that's better than the other, the food-based one?
The food-based is what I go for if people have a sensitive stomach.
Okay.
And then you hear different things from different people. I think Dr. Zelenko has zinc sulfate as his choice, but someone else who was pretty prominent said zinc glycinate, 20 milligrams twice a day was the best.
Okay.
I think any zinc is good because
Okay.
it's zinc.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
And
sometimes you may have to start low and then go up because of people's tolerance with their digestive system. Definitely to do it with food. And you can start as low as 10, 15 milligrams and then, work your way up after a week, so go from like 10 to 20 to 30. And that will do better for a lot of people with the tolerance. And zinc picolinate is also another form that is used especially when dealing with mental illness. And as Dr. Sutton says, you have the vitamin C and the quercetin. And also on the FLCCC, they have started to integrate melatonin, which I thought was interesting. So that's something else also. I'm not sure about melatonin. I kind of hesitate on the melatonin issue, for a lot of different reasons, but that is part of their protocol.
Okay. And now the vitamin A, I know you said for get from food, but approximately how many IUs of the vitamin A would you recommend?
If you were using a supplement, I use the Natura DAK, which has 5,000 of D and a balanced amount of A and K, but I can't tell you the exact amounts on either one of those. But naturahealthproducts.com would have that. And it's put together by a very capable herbalist who makes that balance so things have the best combined effect.
And one that I use is ADEK, and that is made by Apex Energetics. And again, the key with all of these that we're talking about right now is consuming it with some kind of fat, because if not, it makes it very difficult for the body to be able to absorb it, because it's those are fat soluble vitamins. So just to keep that in mind.
Okay. And then what about the vitamin C? What's the amount for that?
Vitamin C, they'll have a generic vitamin C like 3,000 to 5,000, but for that to be broken up during the day for better absorption, doing a mega dose of say 5,000 at one time is not efficient because your body will just pee it out. So if you're doing it to break it up throughout the day in at least 2 to 3 or more doses in a day.
Awesome.
Okay. Well,
And-
thank you everyone for joining us today for the Doctors Are In. I love when you guys send in your questions because that gives us time to prepare ahead of time, especially if there's something for us to research. But regardless, show up and we definitely will answer your questions first. So we thank you, thank you. The recording will be available by tomorrow morning because I first have to download it, convert it, and all kinds of stupid gobbledygook. And then I will be sending it out to you guys along with the links that were provided to you today. So thank you. And we
Thank you
will
very
see
much.
you.
Thank you, thank you, thank
Take
you.
care,
And I-
everybody.
We'll see you
I
next
Thanks.
appreciate
time.
it that that I didn't have to write it all down right now.
Right.
Okay. And I've got
Thanks.
to scoot to another
Thank you.
class. So I
Okay,
will see you guys
bye.
later.
Thanks for
Bye.
hosting.
Bye.
We'll see ya.
Bye.
Bye.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Doctors Are In. It is the first Doctors Are In for 2022. Yay! So thank you for joining us today. And we are here to serve you. My name is Dr. Michelle Gamble, and this is Dr. Kelly Sutton. And we are ready to get rumbling with our questions. So we had some that were sent in for today. And I'm going to pull up my questions because we had several questions that were sent in. And I'm going to open it up for those of you who are here with us in person. You, of course, get first dibs for any questions that you may have. And people are like, quiet. It's the new year, but come on, guys.
Has anybody made New Year's
Hello,
resolutions?
there you go, Thomasine.
Good.
Hello, everyone.
Hey.
So good to be here. And let me get back there. Oh, I guess that's fine. Yeah, so good to be here.
Uh-oh, you just muted yourself. You muted yourself. There you go.
Just off the top, I'm just going to ask this general question. I think the physician was about to say, what are our New Year's resolutions? Those kinds of things. So my question, I guess the first question would be, how would you, the both of you coming from both being physicians, but I think one natural and one traditional, if I'm not mistaken, and how would you guys instruct us to start out our new year as far as preparing for a healthier, happier us in 22?
Awesome. I'm going to throw that over to Dr. Sutton first.
I think this year we need a lot of gentleness because we're living in a world of shock after shock after shock. And we don't have a lot of certainty about next things. So that would be the first thing I would think. And the second thing would be, because we have a pretty heavy toxic load, whether it's chemicals or medical procedures or the coming 5G, to be pretty aware about detox and try to not put in any more toxins, but support the liver and kidneys so that, and the skin, because we sweat toxins out, so that we're kind of keeping a balance and even getting less toxic as time goes on.
Awesome.
Michelle, what do you think?
You always bring up so many phenomenal things. What I do for myself and also for all of my students is that we always start off the year with, I encourage people to do a cleanse, number one, and number two, a vision board, because we are told, even biblically, people perish for lack of vision, especially in the craziness and the chaos of our current world. And in reality, the world has always been chaotic, you know, let's be for real. It's important for us to be able to quiet the noise and to seek God's face, to ask for the vision that He has for our individual lives. Because if you do not identify that vision for yourself, you will be caught up in the hurricane. And that is what's happening right now, that we are so caught up, we're constantly reacting to all kinds of stupidity because we are not focused on our vision. Even when we look at Dr. Martin Luther King, he had a vision, he had a dream, And it's, hold fast to that dream. I remember they came out with the series long time ago with Henry Louis Gates. Hold fast to your dreams, hold fast to your vision. But in order to do that, you have to have a vision. And so the way that I help people to find that vision is through a cleanse. It's so important to do a cleanse where you're clearing out the toxins that you were talking about, Dr. Sutton. And those toxins are not just physical toxins. Those toxins are mental toxins, all the chatter that we tell ourselves, all the chatter that other people tell you. Oh, you're stupid. You're never going to amount to money. You're crazy, especially that one, especially nowadays. Everybody's using us for target practice, right? So you have all of that negative chatter, all of those emotions that are anchoring you to the past version of you. And then there's spiritual obstructions that are keeping you from understanding your true connection and keeping you from remembering who you are, and most importantly, whose you are. So those are the two things that I encourage people to do: a cleanse and a wonderful vision board. All righty. What's the next question? Okay, I'm going to rumble over here to the ones that were sent in. And so we have a question. If you're going to a dentist or to a healthcare professional in general, as one who is not vaccinated, is there some way that you should prepare yourself for the appointment? So that's a question. What are your thoughts, Dr. Sutton?
Does that mean not vaccinated against COVID?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so I think we get exposed to the spike protein from the people who are vaccinated. And we can, if we get infected with COVID, have the spike protein ourselves. So the dandelion tincture is one thing that I've used preventively that's specific for spike protein. I think people use pine tree
Pine needle.
tea, although there's a toxicity if you take too much. And just general prevention for COVID, which is kind of the same as general winter flu prevention. You want enough vitamin D, enough A, zinc, and C. And if people are prone to allergies, I add quercetin. And then someone said that the fear is more contagious than the germ. So have a strong sense of purpose in whatever your action is that brings you into contact with people, that this is for a good reason. It's to help my family member who needs to go, or I need to do this for my health. And that's the focus. And so if you're really dedicated to that good outcome, there's less room for the fear. And you don't kind of attract the weakening of the immune system that happens from that fearful place. I hope I'm on target. You can do other things, like colloidal silver spray or gargles or steams, because gargling and steams are very good at decreasing the number of germs of all kinds. And heat and steam moisture actually kill the COVID virus, the SARS-CoV-2.
Like I said, you always bring up phenomenal things, Dr. Sutton. What you reminded me of, I remember when I was growing up, and sometimes, a piece of food would drop on the ground, and you had like the 10-second rule, and you pick it up and you kiss it, and you say, God bless it, and you scoffed it down. You call it a day. And basically, I think, we've gotten so caught up in the drama that they are pushing. And the drama that they're pushing on us is for us to constantly be in a state of fear, to be fearful of each other, to be fearful of nature, to be fearful of that which God has created, which is our body. And it's a major psyop. So I think what you said is so true, that before you go anywhere, it's like at any point in time, at any point in your life, to, anytime you jump in a car, there's a possibility that you may not make it to your destination. That's the reality. So I truly believe that the first thing is for us to constantly be prayerful, constantly be in that state of awe, that state of love, that state of God has blessed me, God has placed me on this earth for a reason. And to know that you are here according to God. And it, in a way of speaking, when your days are numbered, they're numbered, call it a day. And to just be at peace and to be joyous. And as you said, to focus on that understanding, I'm doing this for my benefit. I'm going in to get my teeth cleaned. I'm going in to take my child to the pediatrician. I'm going in for whatever surgery, and to be at peace and to say, God's will be done. I place myself in your hands, dear Lord. And I've done everything that I could do, so the other things that you were saying in terms of, this is not a time to be scoffing down Mickey D's. Okay, let's just be for real. This is not a time to be, throwing back, XYZ numbers of Pepsi Cola. This is not a time to not be sleeping properly. It's so important that we get sufficient sleep. This is not a time for us to be, doing jam sessions on YouTube and Netflix and Hulu and whatnot. What you stated about 5G, I was just watching The High Wire, and they have a special episode this week on the 5G rollout and the effect that it's having on our airlines. And I'm like, okay, if this thing can take down a big old plane, what is it doing to my little body? And they were talking about the effect of 5G and the effect of 4G and 3G and 2G, all of these wireless technologies, and the fact that not only is it creating disruptions in our electrical field, but the whole idea behind it is separating us from each other. People don't have conversations with each other anymore. You go to the restaurant and I see people on their cell phones. I'm like, why are you spending all that money to go to a restaurant to be on your cell phone? Families don't talk to each other anymore. They have the TV going on and everybody's watching TV instead of having a conversation. So to really look at, how do we honor God? How do we honor our relationships with each other? How do we bring forth that sense of peace and that sense of, I am doing the best I can with what I have, dear Lord, and I am looking for your grace to cover the gap, because we know that there's a gap. Whenever you go to the dentist, whenever you go in for surgery, whatever it is, there's a gap. And we're looking for the grace of God to cover that gap and to take us over to the other side. All righty, guys.
Beautiful. That's gorgeous.
May I jump in?
Yes,
just a little
absolutely.
bit?
Go for it.
Hi, you guys. I'm loving
Hey.
this. I am loving it.
Awesome.
Because there's a saying that perfect love casteth out all fear.
Yes.
And that's it. And I've been working on my love for people that seem like they're attacking me. Because I love them and they get their choices just as much as I do. But this is so good. I'm so excited. I've done vision boards before and I've done cleanses before. And now is the new year. It's time for me to do it again. Yay.
Isn't
so
it exciting?
Yeah, it's so exciting. And I can get on with my life, This is nothing about this is holding me back.
Awesome. Any other questions? Any questions from the live crew? Otherwise, I'm going to the questions that were sent in.
Well, I do have one since I'm on here.
Go for it. Yay, go for it.
Okay. It's kind of a little bit of a complicated story, but the oral surgeon said that I was going to consult with him because my dentist wanted me to before I have surgery on my mouth. And they said, well, you can't have an appointment unless you've been tested for COVID and you have a negative test. I don't trust those tests. I don't trust putting my name in the bank of information that is not, it's not private. So, you know, I think I emailed you, Michelle, about this or texted you about it. So I haven't really decided on my next step. I'm not going to get in line and for a test that because for me, if I get COVID, I'm already prepared for what I'm going to do. I already am building my immune system. So if it's a positive test, I already have the stuff. I have ivermectin by my bedside. You know what I'm saying? So what's the use of me standing in line for a test?
I'm going to jump in because I just found out, and I'm going to, you know, every month we send out the notes for this, and so I'm going to include a link for you guys. Apparently, the post office is giving out 4 free tests to every household. It's a home test that you can do in the privacy of your own home, and nobody needs to know anything. So I'm going to definitely make sure that I am going to go ahead and send you guys the link to that postal service. So again, I'm going to repeat for those guys who just joined us just now, the post office, and I guess the government is paying for this, right? So the post office is sending out 4 free COVID-19 tests to every household. So what I suggest is you're going to use this link that I'm going to send to you, and you can actually sign up for all the people in your family. As long as you have their address, just put in their address and 4 free tests will go to their house. And it'll allow people to test themselves in the privacy of their own homes without Big Brother sniffing on you, right? So I strongly encourage you. Oh, somebody already put the link in for us. Thank you, Ashley. So I strongly encourage everyone to go ahead, you know, type that in and get the test for yourself, for your cousin, your auntie, your grandma, your daughter, your grandchildren, whatever it is. Just put in the address for every household that you know in your little nexus so that you can get those 4 free tests. And it is an antigen test, okay? It is not a PCR test. It is an antigen test. And then in addition to that, you guys know that you can go onto my website and click on resources, and you can get the blood test to find out about your antibodies, because that will show if you have had it in the past. Okay, so they're testing 2 different things. Antigens are testing whether or not you have an active, quote unquote, infection, whereas the antibodies will test to see if you've had an infection in the past. So those are some 2 options that have nothing to do with Big Brother, and they're available to you. Yes.
Thank you, Michelle.
Thank you, Ashley, for sharing that link. Okay. Any question? Okay, I'm going to roll over to the question that we had sent in to us. So this is kind of piggybacking off of a previous question. The question is, I really want to work on boosting my immune system in 2022. I work around people who have been vaccinated and boosted, but continue to test positive. Is there a list that I should be taking different from the usual listing? Okay. So I'm going to ask Dr. Sutton to jump in on that first and foremost.
Well, the vitamin A, vitamin D, zinc, vitamin C, and quercetin if you are prone to allergies. And then I guess there's individual things, like if that person has got any other issues going on, is there a chronic inflammation? You might think about N-acetylcysteine to build up the glutathione level. Or if there was cancer issues, it would take a deeper dive to just check some blood levels on things. And if the person has already had COVID, that's a great protection. That's what the Amish did they just decided in spring of 2020, we're just going to get it and have it over with. And they shared the grape juice cup at their services, and pretty soon everybody was sick, and then everybody was immune. So the other thing that might affect is that some people have said that Czechoslovakia, I think, and the UK are canceling their vaccine passport programs and mandates. So maybe things are going to change about this must have a vaccine to come any place pretty soon. And if there's something that you could wait a little while with, it might be reasonable to do that.
Dr. Sutton, will you put that anacetyl, blah, 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 whatever you said?
NAC, just remember, NAC, NAC.
NAC.
NAC, to help
Yep.
with the glutathione production for the liver with the detoxification pathways.
Okay,
And
could you just write it in the text, in
okay,
the chat?
she's typing.
Because those words, it's a foreign language to me. You're speaking Portuguese.
No problem. She's typing it into the chat as we speak. The other thing to consider are risk factors. And what I'm referring to are inflammatory conditions, as well as blood glucose dysregulation, meaning your blood glucose levels go up and down, they go high, and overweight. If at all possible, you need to address those three things because they are, even outside of the realm of COVID, they are killers, okay? And what they're finding now is that the people who succumb to having more negative outcomes with the virus are people who have inflammatory conditions, overweight, and blood glucose issues. You have to address those issues. All the vitamin C in the world won't make a difference if you are not addressing those issues, because they are extremely, extremely predictive of having negative outcomes. And I encourage you to go look at the stats. The CDC is telling us this, and they don't really want to tell us much, right? So if they're telling us this, you know it has to be a major issue. So I strongly, strongly encourage you to address those issues, and your overall health and wealth and well-being will benefit from you bringing those areas into balance. So inflammatory conditions in the body, blood glucose, and weight. Any questions from our live audience? Or else I'm going to go to my little ones that were turned in.
Now, for the vitamin A, C, D, quercetin, and NAC, are there recommended dosages across the board, or is it pretty individual? Like the, Michelle, when we go over my result of findings, will you give me, what I should be taking for those? Or is there, like I had seen a naturopath, maybe a year ago that had across the board recommendations for this is the amount of vitamin A, C, D you need to be taking for preventative. And then if you get it, you need to up it to this pretty much.
I'll ask Dr. Sutton to jump in first.
I think for the vitamin D in the wintertime, 4,000 or 5,000 international units of D3 every day. And then the other A, you can get from your food if you eat liver, eggs, and butter.
Okay.
Otherwise, you can get a vitamin D with vitamin A, because some people don't absorb D unless it's with A.
Okay.
And if you're just eating an egg, take your D with your egg or your butter, and you've got the A to help with that. We don't want to be afraid of fat for wintertime cold prevention, because that's a fat soluble vitamin and it helps us be healthy in the winter. The zinc, I've heard some people say 50 milligrams of zinc sulfate or 20 milligrams twice a day of zinc glycinate. So it's in the same range, 40 to 50. And sometimes you'll see a big number on the package that says like 250 milligrams of zinc sulfate. Well, they're measuring the entire molecule, not just the zincs. So the 40-50 is measuring the zinc alone, the elemental zinc. And you may have more comments, Michelle, on brands that you've worked with. I don't know the different brands that well.
Yeah. So going back to your question, Ashley, they're actually both, meaning that there are quote unquote general guidelines, like what Dr. Sutton was talking about. And then there are specific guidelines based on your biochemistry. I always encourage people, if at all possible, to do your own testing, because it is important to know where you are before you start supplementing. So for instance, this past week, I was looking at someone's panel and her vitamin D level was like 80. And I was like, whoa, oh my God, that's like so super awesome. Most people, their vitamin D levels are in the toilet. So for this person, I said, just maintain it, especially since we're in the winter months, just maintain it at about 3,000 to 5,000 a day. For another person, we may have to put it up to 10. So if you have somebody who's diabetic, for instance, and has a vitamin D level of say 20, it's in the toilet, your vitamin D level should be ideally at least between 50 to 80, and especially during the winter. And if the person is African American on top of that, then you're talking about some serious vitamin D supplementation. But generically speaking, on the safe side speaking, definitely stick to the numbers that Dr. Sutton is speaking about, unless you have a specific lab results that tells you something different. So the same thing with zinc. Some people, their zinc levels are good. And in fact, if you have too much zinc, then your copper goes too low, and then that creates other issues, So you always want to stay within like generic kind of thingies, unless you have your lab work that shows that you need to beef it up in a certain area. The other thing to keep in mind, especially with vitamin A, is that it builds up in your fatty tissues. So vitamin A is one specifically that you want to be careful with, because you can develop toxic levels of vitamin A. So what Dr. Sutton was saying is to definitely try and get it from food sources as much as possible. My dad was a fan of carrot juice to the point where the palm of his hands would get orange from all the beta carotene, so that's always an option.
One mother told me that when she makes carrot juice, she puts in a tablespoon of cream. And it's a nice combination of the vegetable and the animal source of A, because if the incomplete A is the only thing there, you won't get as much good out of it. So you put a little butter on your carrots or cream in your carrot juice, you got a powerhouse of A.
Nice. Okay. All righty. Okay.
Dr. Gamble?
Yes, ma'am.
A quick question. You mentioned on a broad basis, obviously on people improving their health, high blood glucose, overweight, and then inflammation conditions. As a general rule, what do you recommend they do for any inflammation conditions? What would you recommend?
I would recommend that they find what's triggering the inflammation and to squash it as much as possible, number one. And number two, to put in that support with your antioxidants, and also with, like Dr. Sutton was saying, with NAC to help with the liver pathways, the glutathione pathways. So good. Those three things. But the biggest thing that I find with people that we don't want to address, because everybody, it's easier to pop a pill, right? But sure. I really encourage people to get to the root of the issue, find out what is creating the inflammation in the first place. Otherwise, you're just simply turning on the faucet, trying to fill a bucket that has a hole in it.
Okay. Good. Thank you very much.
Sutton, what would you add, Dr. Sutton?
That all sounds good. I like the omega-3s because our processed food diet is less omega-3 and more omega-6. Yeah. And the omega-6s are pro-inflammatory and the omega-3s are anti-inflammatory. Yeah. If we eat a lot of fish, that's good. The walnuts and blueberries and flaxseed are the vegetable sources that I can remember. And supplements often, because people don't eat fish very much anymore.
Right.
And in alignment with that, to do an oil change, to really clear out those inflammatory vegetable oils that you're cooking with or preparing foods with.
Yes.
And to, if at all possible, to utilize your nice fresh olive oil. You know, so when you use an oil, you need to smell it, and it needs to smell like it says. So if it says olive oil, it should smell fruity, right? If it says coconut
Yep.
oil, it should smell like coconut. If it smells like nothing, not good. Or if it smells rancid, definitely
Hmm.
not good. So
Sure.
I encourage people to do an oil change in terms of their pantry. Throw out that other stuff, you know, just, you know, call it a day, throw it out. I know it's painful. I know you're thinking about how much money you spent on whatever it is, but throw it out. Your body will like you for it. And to replace it with healthier oils if you're going to use oils. You don't need to use oils, really and truly, but if you want to
Mhm.
use oils, use the better oils.
Terrific. Thank you.
Awesome, awesome.
I have a question.
Sure,
sorry, go
go for it.
Me?
Yeah, go for it, Marlena.
Okay. Hi, everybody. How's everybody doing today?
She's trying to pretend like she's shy. This woman is anything but shy. But anyway, go for it, girlfriend.
Okay. First of all, I'm going to ask about, because since you were just talking about the oils, I have grapeseed oil and avocado oil and olive oil. Those are my 3 oils. Is that okay? Or am I still needing to deviate?
As long as they're fresh and cold pressed in dark glass bottles.
I don't know, they're in green bottles or something.
Well, they don't have to be green bottles, but just darker bottles, because the light colored bottles allow light in, and that can affect the lifespan of the oil, put it that way.
Okay. And then my next question is, I saw something somewhere, speaking of immune system, I saw something somewhere where when you could take a hot shower and then take a cold shower right after the hot shower. Does anybody know anything about that? And that's supposed to help strengthen your immune system. Is that accurate information? Or, because I've been trying it. It's a little uncomfortable, but I'm trying it. So
It is very good at boosting the immune system. Absolutely. Dr. Sutton,
I heard from the Swedish naturopath who did a lot with fasting and stuff, that people should do at the end of a shower, 3 minutes of hot or warm, and then 10 seconds of cool or cold, and then reverse those, do them back and forth, alternating 3 times, ending with cool or cold. And I think in terms of how extreme you go, how very hot or how very cold, it depends on how much vitality the person has. So an older person wouldn't go to the hottest and the coldest. They would just stay closer to one side or the other of the middle.
yeah.
okay, well, I like it hot. I'm just saying. But I mean, I really do. I like it hot. So, but
I hear you. I'm the same way. I have difficulty with that particular therapy. I recognize the value of that particular therapy. I just haven't crossed over to that realm yet myself, but I do acknowledge that it has its validity.
May I jump in with one thing?
Go ahead.
My mother did this, but just with the feet. To have a hot foot bath and then end with the cold.
oh,
The cold, so that you don't have to feel like your whole body has to be in the cold water, especially in the winter. So
Well,
I've
I do it
actually
in
been
the
doing that,
shower.
my hot foot bath and ending with the cold.
I do it in my shower.
Yeah, that's good.
Take a
If you can do
shower,
it,
I
I'm not
start
brave.
Hey, I'm trying to be brave, you know. I start with my hot, I get everything done with the hot water first. I do everything I want to do. And then when I'm finished, then I start gradually turning it to cold, cool, and then cool and cool, and then cold. And I just kind of hold on to myself a little bit for a while, because it feels like it's kept taking away my breath or something, you know. But I just kind of hold on to, I'm gripping, I'm in the shower by myself, y'all, you know, but I'm hugging me. in the cold water, and then I turn around slowly, and I just do it for a little while. And so I think I'm starting to get used to it. So I just wanted to know if I'm punishing myself for a good purpose, because I don't want to keep on torturing me if it's not working.
It is. It's a good purpose. It's a good purpose. It helps with circulation. It helps with boosting the immune system. All kinds of really good stuff. So I am proud of you because you're bold enough to do something that I'm not bold enough to do yet. But I hear even like Tony Robbins, that's what he does. He like jumps into a cold pool, like first thing in the morning, and then like into a sauna or something like that. So it's something that's been used for hundreds of years. That particular therapy. Absolutely.
Wow. That's good to know.
Yeah.
I'll keep up the cold work.
And for some reason, this thing is giving me a timer. So if we cancel out, just log back on. I don't know why it's doing that, but craziness of Zoom.
May I ask a question?
Mm-hmm.
Since we're talking about water, and I'm thinking about, I've either heard some stuff or read some stuff as of late. And I think Dr. Sutton was talking about the skin. You know, I think you've taught me over the years that it's the largest organ on the body or something to that effect. But my question is, with all that's going on with vaccinations and things like that, people are urinating in the system. The system in most cities is not sufficient to clearly deal with something like COVID. So when we were talking about water, I was thinking about bathing. You know, when we bathe and we use the hot water, the pores open. Mm-hmm. And then when we use the cold water, the pores close. So I was just wondering if there are any concerns or any way we can prepare or begin to prepare for that overload. I know you believe in water purification systems. I'm looking at one of those myself, but I was just wondering if there's anything else.
Dr. Sutton?
The hot water kills the virus pretty quick. So I think nature has a way of sort of putting things back in